Mic check 1 2. What's popping? Panthers Nation, what up, dudes? Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk, bring you another edition of Panthers news today. Yes, we are going into week 2 of the NFL preseason, and the Carolina Panthers have a lot of topics coming out of not really training camp anymore, but preseason practice leading up, gearing up. Yes, we had the game on Saturday. It was fun to get the Panthers back on the field, but it's back to work as we prepare for joint practices with the New England Patriots. But before we dive into all the topics, if you are new to the channel, my name is Aaron Duncan here. We do recap and analysis of the Carolina Panthers, So make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon. The bell icon is going to make sure you get a notification every time I drop a video, because I'm dropping these videos like hotcakes. We got podcasts, live streams. As the season starting to come around, we got to crank things up. So I drop videos pretty much every day that ends in Y. So if you don't want to miss anything, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. And please give the video a thumbs up if you don't mind. All right. But also, I would like to get your thoughts. So after every topic we go over in this thing, because we have a few of them, I want to get your thoughts down below in the comments. I want to chop it up with you. Let's get this conversation going, because I like to understand how you guys are feeling about some of these topics that are going around. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into it. So I want to first start off talking about some of the QB competition. Obviously, this is the top of the pecking order when it comes to this team. It's the one factor that we don't know about that's probably the most important on the team. Coming out of the game on Saturday, a lot of fans were disappointed in how reps were divided. Yes, we already knew that Baker and Sam were going to get limited reps. It ended up happening where Sam got a short field, so they ended up giving him multiple drives, but Baker got one drive. PJ Walker took on after that through the third quarter, and Matt Corral finally came in the fourth quarter. So a lot of fans were mad on Twitter from what I saw about Matt Corral not getting the third quarterback reps. And my reaction was, did we not just see the depth chart come out a few days before the game that showed Matt Corral as QB4? Now, do I agree with Matt Corral being QB4? That's another conversation for another day. But I'm not going to act surprised and disappointed and mad about Matt Corral going in as QB4 if that's exactly what the list is saying. I don't understand why people keep getting surprised by some of these moves that Rule is making when he's telling you what's going on. Yes, you can argue and get mad about it, and you see and debate it and whatever. I do that myself. But I'm not going to act crazy and get mad all over again if he tells me that Corral is QB4 and he ends up being QB4. Matt Corral in the game, it's an enigma about what happened. I mean, we wanted, I seeing him in training camp myself, I didn't really put it out there too much, but I tried to stress to you guys that he's going to need some time, and that was probably clear and obvious on Saturday. Not to get too detailed into it, but the game just seemed fast for him. That comes from a lack of reps, and people question if he should have got more reps in practice to prepare him for the game. Matt Rule said this thing like, this is the NFL. You're not going to always get a fair shake. The thing about it is you got to take advantage of the opportunities when you get them. That's the difference between playmakers and guys that aren't. Now, you can complain about the offensive line I was in front of Corral and the blitz that the Commanders were bringing, and it really threw off everything. Corral was under pressure a lot of times, got his helmet ripped off even, and it was pretty chaotic overall for him in that fourth quarter. But nevertheless, he did what he had to do to move the ball down the field. They ended up winning the game with his game-winning field goal drive by Zane Gonzalez, even though it wasn't pretty, and it was aided by a lot of penalties, more so than Matt Corral moving the ball. But I just feel like this shouldn't be a surprise about that. And obviously how they juggle it going forward will be very interesting, because going up this week, this is the benchmark that Matt Rule, he put it on the calendar saying that after the second preseason game, there would be an answer about who's the starting quarterback. We don't know who it's going to be going into this week. Baker was the starter, but he said that was not indicative of who would be winning the job. So we'll see what happens. Some people expect Sam Darnold to get the start against the Patriots, whatever, but we'll see how things are divided up. But PJ Walker getting big reps with huge attempts. He actually played pretty solid behind that bump, besides that boneheaded 4th and 1 call that he should have ran, but he didn't. So we'll be surprised. My theory, this is not really news, but my theory is they're giving PJ a lot of reps because we heard the rumors about Sam Darnold possibly being traded last week that came out to be false. I think they actually are trying to trade Sam Darnold, and giving PJ this much play is to make sure he's ready to be QB2, because I think it's clear and obvious that Matt Corral is not there yet. Not saying that he won't get there, but he's clearly not there yet. PJ is undefeated as a starter, believe it or not, has the arm strength, has the athleticism to buy some time and make some plays. Decision-making can be a little bit iffy at times, but I think in a spot, PJ can be a pretty decent quarterback for this team, and I think that's what they're preparing him for, to be QB2 behind Baker. That's just my theory, putting on my tinfoil hat or whatever. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you felt about how Matt Rule split up the reps. Do you think Corral should have got more? PJ should have got less? Do you think Baker should have got more since Sam got more drives? Let me know down below in the comments. The next topic I want to talk about really quick is Camp Confidential coming out. Now, Camp Confidential is the poor man's version of Hard Knocks for the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, more teams are starting to do these things where they do behind the scenes. They mic up players. They go with their meetings. It was crazy. Just a couple takeaways from me. Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, is a hoot. Like, I've played football in my days, and most special teams coaches are like this because you got to get these guys psyched up. And what I saw in that game in preseason, these guys were high energy, high effort. And that's half the battle when it comes to special teams. It has to mean something. People like to diminish it, but field position, turnovers, stuff like that, that has a big factor in winning a game. There's 3 dimensions to the game: offense, defense, special teams. If you win 2 out of the 3, you have the best chance of winning the game. Special teams is the best way to probably win that and get that extra advantage because field position, effort on kickoff, that means a lot. 4 kicks inside the 20-yard line tells me that these guys are playing hard, and Chris Tabor is a part of that. He had a lot of jokes. He got after these guys a little bit too. I like to see that. Another couple takeaway, Baker and Sam's dynamic is pretty much as cordial as they put off. It wasn't just BS. What we see, they get along pretty well. They root for each other quietly and things like that, and I was happy to see that. Another thing was I was very shocked, and I heard Matt Rule talking about the leadership, but Taylor Moton pretty much doing housekeeping rules for the team. Seeing another side of him that I haven't seen before. He's stepping in that leadership role. He's being a lot more outspoken. Yeah, he's a soft-spoken guy. He's pretty easygoing. Not a big, for a guy his size, he doesn't have really a big, demonstrative, deep voice. But I think when a guy like that speaks, it means something. So to see our probably most steadfast offensive lineman and our cornerstone offensive lineman taking on that leadership role, it really helps for that. Also, they didn't really show a ton of Christian McCaffrey. I don't really know why. I know he was on the fringes, a lot of it, but I'm sure there could have been some stuff they could have did. Not sure what was up with that. But Dante Jackson is hilarious. Him being mic'd up is hilarious. A lot of quotable, captionable moments, stuff that'll probably go viral. Obviously, a later date, him talking about him dropping picks and being cheeks because he dropped interceptions and stuff like that. I'm sure it'll come back to bite him in the cheeks later on down the line, but I really enjoyed hearing from Dante. But overall, my thoughts on it, I was a little disappointed. Now, to me, they've done a lot better with Camp Confidential in the past, and obviously the Draft Confidential is a little bit better too, in my opinion. I love the behind-the-scenes stuff. Wasn't as much as I would have expected. This just seemed like a content dump, and they threw it together. It didn't really seem organized or told a story or anything like that. Like I said, it was definitely missing a lot of DJ, a lot of Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if they're going to do another episode of Camp Confidential, but camp is over, so I don't know what else they're going to do. But like I said, to me, it just seemed like a content dump more so than a cohesive piece. I know they're missing some social media people from years prior with some things, so things changed with the Panthers because they've been notorious of having one of the best social media pages in all of the sports franchises. And you can obviously see some stuff is changing just a tad bit as there's been turnover in their employment there. But I still like the extra content. You give me more Panther stuff, I'm going to eat it up anyway, but I just didn't think it was their best work personally. You guys can let me know how you feel about it. If you agree with me and thought that they've done better on other projects like Camp Confidential or Draft Confidential at times. So you guys let me know down below how you feel about that. The next topic we're going to talk about is the Panthers making roster cuts. Now, it came out of left field because the way the preseason is set up now with 3 weeks, cuts have to come in little small bunches, and obviously it's that big cut before we get to 53, but there's 2 cuts before. In the first cut, you have to cut 5 players that go from 90 to 85. And the players that the Panthers cut was Darius Bradwell, the running back, tight end Nate Becker, linebacker Kamal Martin, offensive lineman Wyatt Miller, and cornerback Chris Westry. Now, a lot of these people aren't really big splash guys, but Chris Westry was a surprise for me because he was a big addition at nickel, a tall guy, had some experience obviously with the Ravens, and he was in heavy in the rotation for the team, but he hadn't really had a great camp, and he had a terrible game again on Saturday. Obviously, he went up against Terry McLaurin, and Terry's gonna do that to a lot of corners. But on other instances, he just looked lost, out of place, missed assignments. It really seemed bad for Westry, who a guy that we thought could maybe contribute to this team because of his size and be able to compete at nickel with Miles Hartsfield, but it didn't really work out that way. So Chris Westry is up out of the paint. Be sure to pay attention for another 5 players being cut next week after the preseason game. Obviously, it will be 5, so it's not that hard. But until then, there'll be 53 after that. I will be giving a video with my 53-man roster prediction. I may be even live streaming. We'll see what happens on that. But Chris Westry, I mean, he got pruned from the timeline to use a Marvel reference. But you guys let me know if that meant anything to you. Were you surprised about the Westry being dropped off or any of those cuts surprising you guys? Let me know down below. The next big announcement is some accolades and national recognition for the Carolina Panthers team, and that is the NFL's Top 100 being released this week, and Brian Burns was elected to the list, coming in at number 76. Now, I'm not sure how many other Panthers players will make this list because we only had one Pro Bowler, and it was Brian Burns. Maybe a lineman will sneak in there. I don't think Christian will, since he only played a few games. Typically, they throw Christian a bone if he plays at all. He plays some, but didn't play much enough to make that impact to get voted to that list this year, so I don't expect it. But Brian Burns, at the end of a 5-win season and limited accolades for the team overall, to see a guy like this make it and people notice about it. And you can check out the video on YouTube. I'll probably link it down in the description to hear some of his peers talk about him. Even Cam Jordan, the guy I love to hate, who always got something crazy to say about the Panthers or some sideways backhanded compliment. He actually talked pretty complimentary about Brian Burns. Talked about how he wished he had long arms like Brian and how he was lighter like Brian. But I mean, it was great to see him get talked about, some of the other guys in the league, to see how they actually feel about him, his speed rushes, his moves. Even Tristan Wirfs from the Bucks talked about him, a guy that's faced against Brian Burns on a few occasions. So it was cool to see that. I try not to put too much weight and stock into the NFL Top 100. To me, it's just a media ploy because, one, it's from last year's voting, and they're just dropping it before the following season. So people get upset because they're thinking about it in the current context versus the context that it was from. And with the season being almost a full calendar year behind us, it's hard to remember exactly what happened. And obviously, it's always going to be somebody snubbed. They never ask all the players. So they say they survey players, but they don't ask all the players to vote. And then it's just going to be biased anyway because, come on, man, it's a marketing ploy. If they're not rubbing feathers wrong, it's not doing what they want to do. They're trying to build hype for the season. Similar to how when those Madden ratings come out that are clearly biased, that it gets people going there. It builds more hype. It builds curiosity for people that want to buy Madden and to get ready for the year. So this is all marketing ploys. Don't fall into the trap, my people, of falling for these top 100 snubs, because anytime Mac Jones makes the top 100 list in his rookie year when he did the bare minimum, I don't want to hear it. Mac Jones ain't that guy, bro. He's not a top 100 guy, especially to be ranked ahead of Kirk Cousins. That's another video for another day, but don't put too much stock into it. It's just a marketing ploy to get you hyped for the season, to get you angry, to ruffle some players' feathers. So it is what it is. Let me know down below in the comments if you think Brian Burns was a little bit too low at 76. You thought it should be higher? Do you thought he should have made the list at all? Are you happy that we get some recognition about that for the Panthers? Let me know down below. Last but not least, we have a big week leading up to this Friday's game preseason at the Patriots. The Panthers are traveling up to, I guess it's Foxborough. I don't know where their camp is exactly, but they're heading up to the New England area, I guess, for lack of better words, to have a joint practice with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Now, this will be very valuable because, one, a lot of coaches, including Matt Rule and Belichick and some other guys, they prefer joint practices over preseason. Why? Because it's a more controlled environment. You can monitor the reps a lot more. You can control the tempo. A lot of times player safety is a lot more of a premium versus like in a game when you have to do special teams and all kind of different stuff. People aren't really trying to ease up. There's only one speed in a game speed, but in practice, you can control, you can keep your quarterbacks healthy and safe. You can practice any scenario you want instead of hoping for the luck of the draw of hopefully we get to the 1 yard line or hopefully get to the red zone or hopefully we get backed up on the 1 yard line. You can simulate all those things. And the king of situational football is Bill Belichick. So being able for Matt Rule to pick Bill Belichick's brain, work with him, talk with him, pick up some nuances here and there will be very valuable. I thought that the Panthers got a lot out of the joint practice with the Ravens last year with the good coach and John Harbaugh, and it was very valuable to be able to mix it up with those guys and run a couple things with them. When I saw personally from my side, there's a couple camp fights, so we'll see what happens there. Joint practices, things tend to get a little heated, but Hopefully we get a lot more footage because I will not be going to Boston. I was there at training camp at Spartanburg for the most part, but I will not be going to Boston to be recording these practices. So hopefully we were able to get some good content from beat writers. Obviously there's going to be Panthers that are going to be there, and you can actually take videos there. So maybe we'll get some decent video there also. But Matt Rule glowed about Bill Belichick and his ability to how he's the model and the blueprint of how coaching goes in situational football and joint practices. So I'm sure Rule is foaming at the mouth to be able to get a shot to meet up with Belichick once again and be able to talk ball and talk shop and be able to get some good work there. We'll see how it affects how the starters play on Friday. Like I said, a lot of times Friday is usually the second to last preseason game has been used as that dress rehearsal for some teams. Some teams wait till the last one since it's only 3. But with Matt Rule wanting to name a starting quarterback after this week, I'd be surprised to see how much the quarterback play. I'll be paying attention. I'm not going to make any guesses, but I will be paying attention to see how much that is. And maybe they use that last game as a dress rehearsal with whoever is the starting quarterback that comes out of this week of preseason. That's my theory. You guys let me know how you feel about what can come out of these joint practices. Do you think that we're going to get a steady dose of any starters this week, since we have a pretty intense joint practice this week coming up with the Patriots, and there's more value there than probably in the preseason game? Let me know down below in the comments. But without further ado, my name is Aaron Duncan with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. Make sure you are subscribed once again to not miss anything, and hit that bell icon for all notifications. That way you don't miss anything and you stay up to date on all things Panthers, because you know I'm on top of it. Holla at your boy. Without further ado, I'm Aaron Duncan signing off for the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I'll see you next time. Peace.